So tell me where we are then.
Well, I'm trying to remember the name of this field, but we're the top of Cleebarrow. So I'm looking west now. I'm looking towards, the lake goes from left to right. You can just see the top of it there. You've got the Langdales over there. You've got the Coniston Massif there. So we've been here about 100 years, but that hasn't meant we've had what we have now for 100 years, because bit by bit, when an opportunity came up to improve the farm or add to it, then we've taken that opportunity. So the most recent land we bought is over there on our right there, up at School Knott and Grandsire, which we bought 3 to 4 years ago. It's enabled us to extend what we do and give us opportunities to enter into some schemes that will enable us to change the landscape. Actually, we'll be planting extensively, we'll be grazing it very carefully, we won't be putting sheep on there, and it will actually change. It will change and it will become a very different landscape than it is today. The land here was originally purchased by our grandfather, Francis Scott, who had a business in Kendal, and first of all he rented the house, then he made a bit more money and he bought the house, then he bought the farm, and as the business was successful, bit by bit he built a patchwork to create a larger farm. I was born in Cumbria, I was born in Grange-over-Sands in fact, and then I think from the age of 2 or something, the whole family moved here and this was home. This was home until I went away to university and I went away to work. And for the last 25 years it's been home to myself, my wife and our children.
I'm Pete Webster and I'm farm manager here at Matson Ground. Farming historically has been extremely important in this area for many reasons. One, because of the landscape that it's created and the social structures within that, but also we have the great ability here to grow grass. We're in a really mild but wet climate. So the ability to grow this diverse pasture is fantastic. And so what we're doing is we're using animals, amongst other things, to harvest that grass and turn it into high value protein that humans can consume. At Matson Ground we produce pasture fed beef and pasture fed lamb. Graze solely on these herb rich swards, live outside all year round. So historically the farm has had what we call a conventional suckler herd. We've left that system behind 12 months ago. We use cattle to do conservation grazing predominantly because of the way in which they graze. So they're a lot less fussy than sheep. They graze at a different height to sheep, and they tend to not overgraze. The Belted Galloway and the Rigget Galloway are both native breeds of United Kingdom, but they've become a key tool really in the conservation type grazing that we're seeing in large parts of the uplands of Great Britain. So they have very little negative impact on the landscape. You know, their footprint almost goes unnoticed. They'll graze and move on and graze and move on, and other than a few dung pats, you see very little remnants of them ever being here, yet they're doing fantastic work for flora, for fauna, for invertebrates, and just to create this fantastic diversity that we have on the estate.
So the land at Matson Ground generally is what is called unimproved, but within that we've got quite a variety. We've got some meadows where we've traditionally grown silage or hay, which are quite species rich, means they've got lots of flowers in them. We've got some pasture, we've been able to make new wetland areas, and on the new land, which we've been looking at this morning with the school children, there's a big new stewardship agreement on that, and that will introduce what's called wood pasture on all of that land. And we've been looking today at some of the other work going on there, including the dry stone walling. We've also got projects to increase the amount of wetland areas on the land. The point of that is that wetland is a good thing in itself, but it's very good habitat for dragonflies and butterflies and so on. A large part of the estate is woodland, about 100 hectares perhaps, and within those, and also in the fields themselves, there are some lovely big old trees. The main gist of the stewardship programme up there is trying to restore on the land something really much more traditional than is what is there at the moment. And so the wood pasture will introduce about 3,000 trees, and those are all chosen to be very indigenous, very native, but also pollinator species. I feel that our responsibility is to steward the land, and that means, from the soil up through the grass to the trees, make sure that it's in increasingly better shape.
On this sort of area towards the top of the hill, it's mainly Scots pine, juniper that are going in, with a bit of hawthorn, and in certain areas we're putting things like holly and crabapple. There was a survey done for the site, and the different species were selected based on like the ground geology, soil type, that kind of thing. Basically trying to work out what kind of trees would grow here naturally if they were given the conditions to.
In the greater scheme of the project, the frames are temporary. They're going to obviously have to be here for quite a while just to protect the growing trees. So they're essential at this early stage.
If you look around at School Ground site, there's no trees here at all, and really there should be. There's going to be lots more wildlife. There's going to be lots more trees. It's going to sequester more carbon. There's going to be more biodiversity. It's going to be a healthier ecosystem. Yeah, the trees are very important.
This kind of approach to caring for the landscape has definitely been a long-term thing in our family. School Knot is, I think, such a special place for local people. It's obviously got the most spectacular views right over Windermere towards the fells, but it's also got a sort of almost wildness to it as well, which I think this is actually going to really enhance rather than kind of restrict. It's going to be still hopefully a really special place. So yeah, it's a big change, but hopefully it's going to be a positive one.
I think it's really important that this is a working farm that employs people, that there are plenty of skilled people who can have a livelihood here. This isn't a wilderness. This area here has been created by the efforts of generations of farmers and wallers and others. It's a living landscape that's been formed by the hard work of multiple generations. And that's just what we're continuing. I think if you are seeking to be a steward of something, you've got to do more than just preserve it. You've got to reflect the environment you're in, and you've got to respond to the circumstances in which you find yourself. And that means it probably changes during your ownership. And I think part of the responsibility of ownership is actually to enhance what you have, to ensure that there's something sustainable and valuable and desirable that's there for the next generation, if they choose to be part of that as well.